Hello everyone and very good day to my lecturer. My name is Sri Muruganan Analki Gunasegaran and my matrix number is S76919. I am from group 1. Today I am going to demonstrate my individual assignment accounting information system, showcasing how to leverage digital skills to build a relational database and execute structural queries in Microsoft Access using problem 4.10. Let's jump into the system walkthrough. First, we open the Microsoft Access. We go to the blank database and then we create. Next, we need to create the three types of a table, which is first we go to the view.design view and create the appraiser table, appraiser, and then click OK. Next, we need to type the field name and the other data type. The field name is first is appraiser ID, and the data type is we need to save as number, and then the second is appraiser name, and then the data type is leave as short text. Next, we need to set as primary key for appraiser ID. Next, we go to the data view and data sheets and we save these tables, and then we need to type all of the data, which is first is 8 and appraiser name is Edwin appraiser, and next is 9 independent appraiser, service, and then next is 10, which is John's property appraiser. Okay, next we close this table, go to the creates and click the tables, and we need to create the lender tables, which is we go to the view, design view, and then we save the table as lender and click OK. Next, we need to fill the field name and the data types as the given in the questions. So we copy paste the lender ID for the field name 1, just lender ID, and then we fill all the datas as the same, which is lender ID, lender name, and the data types is as a number. Next, we move to lender name, and then the data types is as short text, and we need to type the lender address. Copy lender address, and then the data type is short text. Next, we go to the datasheet view and then we save the tables. Next, we need to fill all of these data, which is the lender ID, lender name, and lender address. Okay. Excel mortgage. And next we close the lender tables, and then we need to create the borrower tables, which is using the same methods. We go to the creates and click the tables and go to the view, design view, and then we save as borrower. Then we click OK. Next, for the field name and data types, we go to the questions, and then we type as this, which is the title of the table. First is borrower ID, and the data types is as number, and then next is last name, and the data types is as short text, and then next is first name, and data type is short text, and current address, and the data types is short text also, and require mode amount, and lender ID, and the data types is and we also go do the same for appraiser ID, and the data types for the required amount is currency, and the lender ID is number, and appraiser ID also number, and then we go to the view, datasheet view, and we save the table. Next, we need to input all these datas in the Microsoft Access as this. And for currency, we fill the currency amount also as this. Next, for the lender ID also same. And close the borrower table, and we save. Go to the database tool and select the relationships. This is we need to build the relationships between the three of the tables. First, we click the appraiser, borrower, and lender, which is we double click it, and then we close the add tables, and we move the lender ID to the borrower lender ID, and then we click the enforce referential integrity and we click create, and then do the same for appraiser ID and move to the borrower appraiser ID and enforce referential integrity and create. This is the relationship. We save these relationships and closed. Next, we want to do the questions that given in the assignment, which is for A. We go to the access and we go to the creates and query designs, and then at add tables we double click the appraiser, borrower, and then we delete the add tables and we double click the borrower ID and the last name and also the appraiser name, and then add the criteria for appraiser name. We need to type as advent appraiser. Okay, next we go to the run. We click the run, and then there is a design view, and then we go to the SQL view. This is the SQL view, and then we save as query A because it's a question A, and then we click OK. Next, we do for the question B, which is this. List all the property appraiser. This is the question B. So we go to the Microsoft Access, we go to the creates, and then query design, and then we go to the add tables, we double click the appraiser and we double click the appraiser ID and the appraiser name. Next, add the criteria, add the appraiser name. The sort of the appraiser name is ascending, and then the criteria for the appraiser name we need to type as D, and then we go to the runs. This is the designs view, and the SQL view is this is the SQL view. Next is we need to save these files as query B, which is for question B. Next, we do the question C and close the query B and we do the question C, which is this all the lenders. So we go to the Microsoft Access, we go to the creates, and then query design, add tables, we double click the borrower and the lender, and then add the lender, we double click the lender name, and the borrower, we click the borrower ID and the required amount. So, and we double click the appraiser ID also at the borrower. Next, under the appraiser ID, the criteria is we type as 8, and then we untick the appraiser ID and we run. Click the runs. And then this is the design view, and for SQL view this is the SQL view for question C, and we need to save this as query C for question C, and we click OK. Next, we close the query C and we need to do the question D, which is list the lender. This is question D. We go to the access and then we click the create and query design. At the add tables, click the appraiser, borrower and the lender. Next is we need to double click the lender name and appraiser name, and also the required amount for borrower. Next, add the criteria for required amount. We need to type as more than 100,000. Then we untick this required amount borrower show, and then we click the run, and this is the design view. And then we need to see the SQL view. We go to the SQL view. This is the SQL view for question D. And we need to save the query 1 as query D. And we click OK. Next, we close the query D. Next, for the question E, which is we go to the creates query designs, and then we double click the borrower and the lender. Next, we need to click the totals and then double click the lender ID and the lender name, and also the required amount. And then for the total required amount, we need to change as AVJ, which is average, and the field name for the required amount we need to change as AVJ mod amount at the beginning of the required mod amount, which is like this. And the next steps is we right click at this and go to the properties, and at the format we need to select the fixed, and the decimal places we need to type as 2, which is 2 decimal places. And then at the sort we need to select the descending, and then we need to click the run. This is the answer for the design view for question E, and the SQL view is this. This is the SQL view for the question E, and we need to save this as query E, which is for question E, and click OK. And then we do for the question F, which is go to the create query design, and we double click the appraiser and the borrower. Next, we click the totals also for this, and then we double click the appraiser name and also the borrower ID. Next, for the total, we need to change as count, and then we need to edit the borrower ID fields also, which is we delete this and type as count of appraiser. And open brackets borrower, and then close the brackets. and then we put the dot and also open brackets, borrow id and close the bracket, and then we run. Click the run, the design view will appear. And next is for the SQL view. This is the SQL view for the question F. Need to save as query F. Okay.